Hello, Magic is Real listeners. This is Shannon Torrance. Today I had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Linda Cramer. Linda was actually born a natural psychic medium, but in 2001 she had a near-death experience, which led her down a spiritual path. She's now a psychic medium and a spiritual teacher. In this interview, she shares with us the lessons that she learned on the other side and encourages us to live a life of compassion and kindness. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more like it, you can support this project by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you. Now here's my interview with Dr. Linda Cramer. Hello. Thank you so much for listening to or watching Magic is Real. I'm Shannon Torrance, and today I have with us Dr. Linda Cramer coming to us from Australia. Linda had a near-death experience in 2001, which led her on a spiritual path. So now Linda is a psychic medium. She is a spiritual counselor. She has a PhD. I'm going to have her tell you all of her other credentials because there are too many to list, I think. And an ordained minister, is that correct?
That's correct, darling. Yes.
Linda, welcome to the show, first of all. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me today, Shannon. I absolutely get tingles down my spine when people just contact me and say, share my story with you. So I hope today your viewers and your listeners get some answers, get some hope out there about what my experiences are. I've always been a psychic medium. Didn't understand it as a child because I was raised by a religious family who shut me down. They belittled me. I was called the freak. I was called the idiot many, many times every day from my family. I just shut it down a lot, and I didn't really share what I was going through, even though I have some pretty vivid memories of what happened growing up. My life sort of changed when I was in my teens because I was now in a position where I had some dreams that were coming true. And in one particular instance, a girl was eaten by a shark off an island on our northern coast here in Queensland. I actually met her at the beach. She had the same bikini on. She was about to get into the water. I started a scene. Let's just go there with that. I started a scene because I didn't want her to go into the water. Sure enough, there was a shark. It was a great white, which is very known to eat humans. And the retaliation from the group that I was with that day, no one spoke to me. So I decided I had to shut it down again for a little while. How many gifts do I have? I've always seen ghosts and spirits since I was a child. And I've always had the knowing. I don't know if you know what that means, where you just know things about people. You go to a new house and you know the floor plan, you know the color of the kitchen, you know where the toilet is, you know how old their dog is, that sort of knowing. I've always had that. But in 2001, my ex-husband killed me. I have the paperwork here, which I like showing people now because I do get a lot of criticizers. People do critic me and say, no, I don't believe your story. So here is my medical file with 168 pages of medical files from Concord in North Carolina, where I was in. There's ECGs in there, there's medical notes, what happened to me. So basically, 2001, when I had this event, I woke up from that with every psychic ability that there is. As I just said to you off air, I'm doing a development class this afternoon on telekinesis, how to move things with our body, with our mind, I should say, because that's one of my gifts. I can see inside people and see injuries inside people. Cars talk to me, plants talk to me. It's funny because it is, it still makes me laugh even today, 20 years after I died, that I am so connected still to everything on the planet, because even my computer mouse, it holds energy because it's made of natural fibers. whatever they've put into there to make the plastic, it's still natural, which has a consciousness, which has an awareness, even though in it hasn't got a mind, so it can't see, hear, think, or taste like we do as humans. It still has an awareness. So, yeah, it is interesting life that I lead, darling. It's a daily thing for me. I'm still not used to it. And that's probably why it took me so long to come out of that closet of saying, yes, I am a psychic medium. But I have to keep reminding myself of what happened to myself in 2001, because at one point of my near-death experience, I was talking to my great, 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 great grandmother. Her name was Karina. And she explained to me during the time that I was talking to her, she told me that I would work with the police for 10 years. And I laughed at her when she said that. I said, how can I work with the police? I will never pass the physical. She said, trust, you will be doing this. So I ended up being an admin officer, administration with the police for 10 years, which she told me. She said 2 years after I leave there, I'll be a first aid trainer for 2 years. And I laughed at her and I said, how can I be doing first aid? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a pathologist or a virologist. She said, trust, for it will happen. And I was a first aid trainer for 2 years, from 2014 to 2016. And it's only when I sat there in that hindsight, in that perspective of looking back, where we have that 2020 vision, and I thought, my goodness, she told me about the police. She told me about being a first aid trainer. She told me that was going to happen in that year. She told me that. She told me that. And they've all come true. So now I have to believe that further things that she's told me that will happen in my life past this date in 2021, those things will come true as well. So I have this utmost respect because I trust them so vehemently that I don't doubt them anymore. Whoever this woman is that stands to my left shoulder, she talks to me every day. And I thoroughly believe that she was with me at birth when I was in hospital as a baby. And I also believe that she was the one with me when I was in heaven, because somebody, and I know it was a female, they were tapping me on the shoulder and directing me to all the different parts of heaven when I was up there. Yeah, so I lead an interesting life. After I woke up in 2001, I started studying life coaching. I did a CBT practitioner license because not so much do I want to understand the psychology of humans. I wanted to understand the psychology of ghosts and spirits. Why do some spirits stay? Why do some ghosts stay? Why do some return to where they were born? Why do some know that they've died? Why do some don't know that they've died? Why do we have spirits that are totally separate where they go to heaven? And how do they pop in to see us? So I went on to psychology. I've studied science. I'm looking into string theory, interdimensional distortion theories. I'm looking at thermodynamic theories because, it's like when we go to a haunted house and there's a hot spot. That's thermodynamics, which is all energy, which I know it's all energy because I've been to home for so long. Yeah. So I lead an interesting life, darling, which just ended with me getting my PhD. I wrote my thesis. It was called Energetic Transmutation. I spoke about how when the physical body dies, we return to our energetic form and how we can transmute that energy into anything that we think about. So what our thoughts, we create our thoughts into reality. That thesis got me an honours for my PhD.
Wow, that's so
Yes.
interesting. Well, thank you for that summary. That's definitely better than I would have done. So I would like to go back to, I really would love, I always like to start with as much as you're comfortable sharing. You don't have to go into the detail, but when you were a child, when you saw spirit and interacted with them, how did you experience that? Was it mostly visual? Did you have auditory sensations? And how did you make sense of it? I know that you were discouraged from exploring that, but what was your experience like as a child? What were you seeing and feeling?
I see ghosts just like you sitting in front of me now.
Okay.
I see the wrinkles, I see the lines, I see the eyelashes, the hair, makeup, clothes, shoes, bags, anything else they're carrying. It's like a real person standing in front of me. A lot of times when people come to my house, like if I know somebody will come to my house and three people turn up, I've actually got to ask them, are you living or are you deceased? It is that confusing for me.
Right.
Sometimes they come through like a transparency, which I explain at nighttime. If you look at a window and you can see your reflection in the window at nighttime and you can see through it,
Mm-hmm.
I can see them as a transparency sometimes, but most times they actually appear in full body apparition, which scares the heck out of me because they do like waking me up in the middle of the night where they're standing next to my bed. I do see them with injuries, sometimes extremely graphic injuries of how they died, especially car accident, bullet holes, amputations, etc. It can be extremely traumatic. Um, but the first one that I really do remember was when I was about 6.
Mm-hmm.
I shared a bedroom with my sister. I woke up and there was a man standing over my bed, and I started talking to him. I said, "Who are you?" And he looked at me and said, "Well, who are you?" Then my sister woke up and she said, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "Well, I'm talking to this man." And she said, "There's no one there, you freak. Go back to sleep." So then he looked at me and said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Well, that's my sister." So then she's now awake because she's still hearing me talking to him. So I remember her running down the hallway to mum and dad's room, and she yelled out, "Mum, she's doing it again."
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I'd been doing it before that, before I was 6. Yeah, so at 6, I remember dad coming in and having another chat with me. "You can't keep doing this, Linda. You're scaring your sister. You're keeping us awake. It's all in your imagination. It's a figment of your imagination. Stop telling us about it." So, of course, I shut it down for some years, but ultimately, I'm grateful that they never took it away. And I think in hindsight, we all have life paths, life contracts, and life lessons to learn. And I'm pretty keen to think that they did make me die so I would come back into doing it full time now in
Yeah.
the year 2020s, um, because it just instilled as an adult, instead of a naive, innocent child, I've now got the critical thinking and the life experiences and the skills, etc., to fathom what is happening rather than to a child who can be very confused with working it all out. So I thoroughly believe that 2001, when I died, I was 36 years old. It was for a reason, to pull me back and to really allow me 20 years, because it's now been 20 years, to the point where I can fathom the severity and the humongous, what a term there, humongous message that I want to give to other people. We all
Right.
have doubts, we all have regrets, we all have insecurities, in confidence. We all judge our lives. And ultimately, at the end, Shannon, the best thing that I can offer anybody is to just trust that everything does happen for a reason. Everything is out there. We have a path that we can stay on. And it's when we go off that path that they will put us back onto that path. And the worst thing that we can do is to judge somebody as to why they're doing something. Let's just go there, a homeless man who has a drug issue, and so he steals money to afford his drugs. Who am I to judge what he is in his life? Because I don't know what his life lessons are. And how do I know that one of his life lessons might not be how to accept help,
Mm.
how to be humbled, how to receive generosity from others? So we can't judge why anybody lives their life and how they live their life. All we can do is look into our own lives and say to ourselves honestly and openly, am I being the best person that I could possibly be with all the information that I've received in my lifetime?
That's really beautiful, and that really that's gonna stick with me. That's one of those things you hear where you think, "I'm working on judgment all the time," and I've doing a much better job of it, but I tend to be very critical, and not in a mean-spirited way, but I just am a very analytical person, and I have been really working to and I've asked, "Please remove judgment. Please remove my judgment of others." And I think that when you
Yeah,
look at it that way, that everybody's here, their soul has chosen this path for a reason to help their soul develop. So, it doesn't mean you have to engage with that person, but it
no,
helps make sense of why doesn't this person just accept help? Why are they living like this? Um,
that's right.
you know,
Because that
yeah,
may be their lesson to
yeah,
ultimately learn how to accept generosity from others,
yes,
because people say to me, oh, what are the life lessons that we have to learn while we're here? And I say things like generosity, patience, love, support, understanding, forgiveness. They say, well, how can this guy learn generosity when he's a homeless man? Because it's not that he has to be generous to somebody else, it's how to flip it over where he is now accepting generosity from others.
yeah,
So there's always that flip side. So patience, how do we learn patience? We'll be put into positions where we have to wait. And I'm not a patient person. I know it's one of
mhm,
my life lessons. I'm very spontaneous and I like just going with the flow. So I know that, to me, I've got to be patient in allowing not just things to unfold in my life, but also in the lives of others. So then I don't get um, frustrated with their delays. So there's always that flip side of that coin. So it's not always about us.
right,
We may have a life lesson of, let's just say, compassion. Compassion. We're walking down the street, we're 58 years old and we're walking down the street and you think, oh my God, I've got this life lesson of compassion. I've never been compassionate before. What am I doing compassion? And then you go home and you'll think, oh my God, there was an injured bird on the road. Why didn't I stop and help it?
mhm,
A bird got hit by a car. Why didn't I go over and help that bird as it was waving its wings around? Because that's our sign of compassion, where we help somebody who can't look after themselves. And then how do we know that we're not in a situation where we lose our job? Look at the times that we live in. Everyone's losing their jobs. We're struggling with our bills. Mental health's going through the roof. So, what are we doing to show compassion to others going through the same thing? So, even though we're sitting there and we're thinking, oh, woe is me, I'm going downhill, we can still show compassion to anybody else, even those that are still working, taking their wheelie bins after the garbage man has come, pick up rubbish on the street if that person is working, even though you've lost your job, because it's showing that you care about somebody else who's just trying to get through on their life as well. So there's always that flip side to our life lessons where it's not always just about us. It's the lesson that we might have to show it to others as well.
that's a really beautiful message and, just so well articulated. I would love to talk about your near-death experience. Again, I know it's a painful memory and it's traumatic, so I don't, anything you wanna share, but really, what was your life like in between your childhood where you shut down your gifts, leading up to your near-death experience? Sort of what did your life look like and how, were you could even sort of touch on Did you have a spiritual life? What were you doing? Where were you working? That sort of thing.
My dad, I'll go there with my dad. He worked for the Air Force. So we moved around every year to 2 years. I was going to a new school with dad being promoted with the Air Force. So I ended up going to 9 different schools where I was always the new kid. You know, you walk in, there's kids already with all their friends. It was extremely hard to make friends for me. I learned very early, don't say Linda, don't tell them Linda what you do, because I
Yeah.
always just wanted to fit in. So when I finished high school, I started working with Australia Post. I had a couple of jobs, but the big one that I had was Australia Post, the postal service, traveling around Australia. When I was 20, I lived up at Nambour, which is about 2 hours north of Brisbane.
Mhm.
I was driving, I'd come down to Brisbane to stay the night at mum and dad's, and I was driving back up to work the next morning, and my back tire blew and I drove into a concrete bridge. A utility stopped behind me, and 2 men came over and they said, "Where's the passenger? There was someone else in the car with you." And I said, "No, I'm traveling alone. I'm going up to Nambour to work." They said, "No, we've been sitting behind you for the last 10 miles and there was 2 people in the car." And I said, "No, I'm alone." What they didn't know was just before impact, I got thrown out of the car. I got pushed by somebody who I didn't see. I didn't really think much of it. But 3 days later, I was at work and I got paralyzed. The pain down my spine was absolutely intense. You know, I peed my pants and I was crying. So they got an ambulance, they took me to hospital and they did x-rays. I actually had a broken neck.
Wow.
C2 and C3 in my neck are still not connected. They sort of sit off angle to each other. I'm not a quadriplegic. I didn't have surgery.
Hmm.
I was in hospital for about a week because I got up and started walking around. I took off all the strapping because I was in a big neck brace thing. I took all the strapping off and I got up and started walking around. And the nurses said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm going home." She said, "But you've got a broken neck. You can't do this. I said, "No, I am fine." So even at 20, I knew the power of the words I am. I am fine. I am healthy, because I made myself healthy just by saying it, which I didn't realize the magic that created. So I was married at that time to my first husband. We separated, and during my time with Australia Post, I had met an American who lived in Concord in North Carolina. So when I left my first husband, the same week, his father passed away. So he contacted me and said, "I'm going through some grief. You're going through some grief. Would you like to come over for a holiday?" Tell me who wouldn't jump at that,
Hmm.
seriously. So I ended up going over to America 14 times from Australia. In Concord, North Carolina is where we lived. We got married in August 2000. So we had a year to lodge my immigration paperwork. It was extremely stressful for me because he did not want to do my immigration paperwork. He just wanted me to live there as an illegal, no green card, no medical insurance. He virtually just wanted a housewife, someone to just look after him, which I didn't want to do that because, I just had this big career with Australia Post. I knew that I was capable of working. So we ended up biting. And on the 6th of May, 2001, I went to bed and I was struggling to breathe. Stress does come out in physical injuries. So I got up at about 2 o'clock in the morning and I went to the toilet and I went to sleep. I'll go there with what he said first, okay, when I went to sleep. He said that he woke up because he heard someone banging on the door. It wasn't me. banging on the wall in the toilet because I don't remember doing that. And plus I didn't have the strength to do it. So he came in and found me. He said that I was blue. So he checked my pulse, no pulse, and I was not breathing. So he ran back and got the phone from two rooms away, came back, rang 911, and they instructed him to start CPR. The ambulance, the fire department, the sheriff's office, anybody else that wanted to come, they all came. They all came. They, in my medical files, because I now have 168-page medical file from the Cabarrus County Hospital. This is all my medical files from the hospital with ECGs, medical forms. In here, it states that I was not breathing, no pulse for over 14 minutes, which is clinically dead. I actually think it was longer than that because he didn't find me straight away and he said that I was already blue. So they were just timing it from the time that he rang the ambulance. But I know that I'd passed out and I wasn't breathing before he actually got to me. So it could have been up to 20 minutes. So I ended up getting transport. Oh, they did CPR as well. They detected a heartbeat, pulse, etc. So they took me over to the Cabarrus Hospital where I was in a coma. My memories are totally different to that. I found myself floating in the living room above a chair and I could hear him in the toilet on the phone and he was very short of breath. That's the first thing I remember. He was very short of breath, like talking like this. And obviously that's when he was doing CPR on me. Then I saw the fire department, the sheriff's office, the EMS people, ambulance people. They all came into the lounge room right in front of me. And I saw their name badges on their sleeves. I heard the whole conversation. One guy had a clipboard, he was writing down notes. Some of them were going into the toilet where I was. But during that time, I wasn't scared at all. There was no fear. I didn't think anything like, oh my God, I've got to wake up. I've got bills to pay tomorrow. There was no fear at all about consequences of what would happen if I died because it didn't dawn on me that I was dead at all. I didn't know that I was dead at all. So I saw them bring me out on the gurney, the trolley, and that was 45 minutes after they arrived because my ex-husband told me that. He said they were there in the house for about 45 minutes. So I know that process just there where I was floating was about 45 minutes. So they took me outside, put me into an ambulance while I'm still floating near the ceiling in the living room. And then they all walked out and they shut the door. And that's when it got weird because the door opened again and all these little orbs came in. They're in my book, Heaven Exposed. These dark blue little orbs of energy came in and they were like hovering around me. No communication. There was no thoughts or telekinesis or communication. But I could tell that they could communicate with themselves because they didn't bump into each other. It was just like they were just checking me out. So they did that for a few minutes and then instantly they all went out the back door, the front door again. So there must have been some sort of communication between these orb things, these entities, whatever they were. And then the door shut again. So that's always puzzled me. How did the door open and close? Because they didn't do it. And the door was locked from my ex-husband when he left with me in the ambulance. Then I get this tap on my shoulder, which I think it's this woman who talks to me every day now. And I call it the fog stage because if you close your eyes and then open them again, you're in a totally different location, but you can't feel that you've been transported. It's not like getting in a car where you can feel going somewhere. You just blink and you're instantly there. And I found myself in this field of flowers. In front of me, there was trees, buildings, mountain ranges, oceans. It's very hard to explain it because everything was one. I could smell the mountains and I could hear the flowers because I was so connected to everything. Everything, when they think or have a thought process or that intention, because that's what I use, that word intention, every intention is known by everything else. So I went into the buildings. I was talking to people. When I walked through this field of flowers, the flowers actually moved under my feet so I wouldn't squash them. So they knew what I was about to do before I did it. My intention. They knew my intention. So I would have been in that field because I base it on the length of our conversations. Where someone talks to me, I talk back. I reckon that I was in this place maybe 8 months to 15 months because it was so long, the conversations I was having with people. I remember talking to this bear, a big brown grizzly bear, claws this long. And it was talking with its mouth, English like I do. And instantly, as I'm talking to this bear, it stands up on its hind legs and he just transformed into a man wearing pants, shirt. And I said, my God, how did you do that? And he said, all I did was think about it. So what we think, we can create. So I was in this field. I went into all the buildings. The walls were talking to me because of the life of the wood and the stonework inside these buildings. It all has energy. It has a consciousness, which is an awareness. So that knowing everything about everything, I was one of everything. It's like I was the arm of a human being attached to it. So I do have pictures. So the next thing I find is that I get this tap on the shoulder again, and it's this woman. And I'm back in this fog stage again where I blink, open my eyes, and I found myself in this church type of structure. And in front of me, this is what I saw. There's 3 beings. I won't say male or female because they didn't have a gender. But the energy was going up from the floor. And when it got to the head, it was spiraling both ways at once. And it was like dimensional. I could see into this space that was their head, and I could see the energy rotating all different ways at once. They didn't talk to me, but I knew their intention. I knew what they wanted me to do. So in front of me, I had this box, which I've got a drawing of, which is in my book, Heaven Exposed. So I had to lift off this lid of this box, and inside the box, there was no walls or flooring. It was infinite. It was infinity. Inside there were millions of these little videos in like balloons, like an orb with a little video. Each little video was an experience from my life, like a memory. So I just knew from these 3 beings that I had to pick out individually one ball at a time and go through the process of healing myself, judging myself, and forgiving myself why I did it. So let's go there. There's basically 2 ways that we act. We act good or we act bad. If you're on the Santa list, you're either on his good or naughty list, right? So let's just go there, first of all, with naughty things that we do in our lives. When we scream at someone, when we abuse, when we yell at someone or hit them physically or kill them, when we're going through this process, we become that other being. And then we feel the energy, which is the emotion of what we've caused. So one of the memories that I had was me pulling the tail of my grandmother's cat when I would have been about 6 years old. Instantly, I'm the cat, and I'm feeling what it's like to have this human pulling my tail, the confusion, the frustration, the ow, that really hurts. But it's tenfold, because in the Bible, they even say what we do will be returned to us tenfold. So instantly, I'm this cat feeling this massive pain. And that's when I started crying. And I thought, my God, I didn't mean to hurt that cat. Why did I hurt that cat? I didn't want to do that to the cat. Now I know how it feels. I didn't want to do that to the poor cat. So once you go through that sort of working it out stage, then you think, my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was doing that. So we forgive ourselves for the actions that we cause to others. And then once we cleanse it, because it is a cleansing through that healing stage of forgiveness, that memory that I had with my pulling my grandmother's cat, that whole bubble with that memory inside it disappeared. It had been returned to the natural universal energy wave. So I look back in this huge vastness of all these bubbles with these little TV screens, millions, and I was looking outside on this box. I could see the walls of the box, but then you look inside and there's no wall. Then you look outside and there's the wall, but there's no wall inside. It's this big crevice with no walls or floor. And I thought, my God, I'm going to be here for an extremely long time because I've got to go through every single thing I did. So when we are nasty to somebody, like on the Santa list, we're not on the naughty list, every single word, even if it's just an unknown stranger walking past and you trip them and you think, pranked you, you've got to relive that and say, why did you do that to him? You just caused him pain. But then on the flip side, let's go to the flip side. What about all the things on the good list? Imagine a time when you're being generous to someone, a simple smile. Because one of the bubbles, the balloons, or whatever you want to call them, Orby things that I pulled out, I had this memory where I was skipping down the street and this total stranger is walking past me. And as he walks past me and I'm skipping away happily, he smiled back at me. Instantly, I'm this man and I am filled with that happiness because it's tenfold. And I'm like, whoa, look at this. Oh my God, I feel so great. This memory has made me feel so great. Because then we have to heal it ourselves again, even though it's not a bad thing. And we say, why did you create that happiness in him? So I sit there and I judge myself. Why did you make him feel good that day? Just like with the naughty list. Why did you make them feel bad that day? Now it's why did you make him feel good? Because I wanted to. And as soon as we say, I wanted to create this energy with him that was happy, content, satisfied, supportive, whatever the words are that you want to use, that's when that memory is equalized. It becomes universal energy again. And that memory of me walking past that man disappeared. So as I'm looking into this huge area of all these bubbles, I probably would have looked at hundreds of them. And each memory, like the one with the cat, I can't tell you how long I was there with the cat memory, probably 45 minutes, because I was crying because it's so emotional feeling that pain from the cat. So, you multiply 45 minutes by thousands. How long was that I was there just looking in that box of memories? It was months and months and months. Yeah, so that's our life review when we have to ascertain why we did every action that we've done in our lives. How many times do people say only the good die young? Because they don't have to go through such a long process, obviously. You look at someone like Hitler, who was responsible for the death of so many millions of people. He has to pick out each one of those because he inflicted it. It was his intention. He has to pull out every single one of those Jewish memories and relive why he caused their death. So he will feel what it was like to be at Auschwitz going through the gas chambers. He will feel what it was like to be shot in the firing squad. He will feel the anguish of the people who actually had to do that and pull the trigger on those guns. Some of them may have wanted to do it, some of them may not have. But at the end of the day, you and I don't know about Hitler. We weren't around in the 1940s and 30s. But because we know the stories, we're connected to that story. We get emotional about those stories. We're now part of that box that Hitler, in his life review, he'll have to look at Linda remembering me. And then he becomes me and how I feel that ripple effect of the actions that he's caused. So I tell a story with people. I say, look, you wake up angry, you abuse your husband, you go in the kitchen, you spill coffee all over your uniform. So you have, you're attacking your husband. He then goes to work, so because now he's in a foul mood. He goes to work, he kicks the chair of his co-worker and they fall over and hurt themselves. So it's that ripple effect. He gets up, he goes home, so now he's angry because he fell over at work. He's now swearing at his children or his wife or whoever he lives with. That person, we still have to work out, why did we cause that ripple of pain all the way down that avenue? So I do try now to teach people, don't be nasty, don't hold grudges, don't belittle people, don't swear at people. Always give kindness, give love, give generosity, support, understanding, and forgiveness. Because ultimately, when we get to heaven, you've got to live this again. And you will be surprised how much pain it causes, because it's tenfold. So how long was I here doing my life review? Months and months and months. Then I get the tap on the shoulder. And now I'm in this space, no walls, no ceiling, no floors. I look down and there's no floor. It's all pure white. And over in the distance, there's a woman. And as she walks, she's walking towards me. She's getting bigger as she walks towards me. She comes up to me and she said, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Where am I?" She said, "Well, you can't stay here. You've got to go back." And I said, "I don't know where I am. So how do I get back when I don't know where I've been?" She said, "Oh my God, Linda." She said, "Look, I am your great, 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 great grandmother. My name's Karina. I died in 1940s. I'm sorry, the 1840s. I think she was born in 1806. I've got to work it out. Can't remember. But she was 36 when she died. And she said, "My God, you don't know who I am, do you?" And I said, "Well, no, because you're like 4 generations before me." And she said, "Oh, well, let me tell you about my life." So she went into great detail about her life. Everything she ever did, she told me. Months and months and months it took. She was telling me how they cut down the trees. Oh, how to make an axe. Took about a week just to how to make an axe. How they used the axe to cut down the trees to make furniture. How they had to cut the wood and how they would sand the wood without sandpaper. She described how she made her clothing, how she made the house with her husband, how she went down to the stream and was washing clothes, the device that she made out of wood to actually wring the clothes out when she was down at the stream. Months and months and months. And she said, "You've got to believe me, Linda, that this is all true." And I said, "Well, I don't know what's going on." She said, "Well, you'll be working with the police for 10 years. I actually did work with the police for 10 years, 2 weeks short." She said, 2 years after that, you'll become a first aid trainer. I was a first aid trainer for 2 years. And it's only when you look back in hindsight, you know, she told me all that in 2001, plus other things that are personal that happened in my life. And I sit here and I think she knew, because there's no time and there's no space in heaven. She knew the jobs I was going to do, the work, you know, working with the police, working with first aid. So I've got to trust that everything else that she told me is going to be true as well. So whoever this woman is that taps me on the shoulder and talks to me every day, I honestly don't ask her who she is. When I ask her, what is your name? What's your name? She says, it does not matter, for we are all. We are all. We are everything. We're so interconnected, integrated into one universal energy force that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how many yachts in the marina you own. It all comes down to our attributes, you know, our life lessons, how we treat others, compassion, understanding, forgiveness, love. So when I was talking to Karina, she said, do you realize that if you go into here, you'll never be able to go back? And she was pointing past me. So I turned around and here's a photo. She's pointing at this big tunnel. It was rotating both ways, clockwise, anti-clockwise at the same time. And it was magnetic. It was like so attractive. I was attracted to go into this tunnel. She said, Linda, if you go in there, you can never go back. And I said, well, what happens to me if I go down that tunnel? She said, you will get a new life contract. You'll be born again and you won't finish doing your life review, which was this part of all the bubbles. She said, you've got to finish all those bubbles, whatever she called them, because I was up there for about 5 years with it, the whole experience. She said, if you've got to go through all your memories, because if you don't heal, you will take all that into your next existence. So what did I get from this experience, Shannon? I woke up in hospital, even though it was only a few days after I died. I woke up with every psychic ability that there is. The nurse came in and said, how do I feel? And I just looked at her and said, how's Motley? She said, how do you know about Motley? I said, you've been here all week. You've got this 14-year-old cat. He's got grey hair. He's got kidney trouble. You've taken him to the vet. It's $3,000. You don't know whether to put him down. You don't know whether to spend the money. You can't afford the money. You don't know whether to get a new kitten. You're driving me nuts because all you talk about all week is Motley. She looked at me and she said, Linda, for the past week, you've been in a coma and I haven't even been in ICU. I've been down on the second floor. But I do have a cat, Motley. He is 14 years old. The bill is $3,000 and I'm seriously considering buying another kitten. How did you know that? I can't explain it, Shannon.
Yeah.
It's just the knowing.
Right.
The knowing.
That's incredible.
I've had it ever since.
How, so when you did come back into your body, what was that like? When you made that decision, I need to go back because there's more work that I need to be doing. What did the return feel like?
I was talking to Karina and I said, I don't know how to go back. And she said, Linda, all you've got to do is think about it.
Right.
So, you know, the movie Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
When
very
Dorothy has to go back to her real world?
Mm-hmm.
What did the wizard say to her? You've had actually it was Glenda, the Good Witch of the North. She said, Dorothy, you've had the ability to go home the whole time. All you've got to do is think about it.
Yeah.
This is true, Shannon. what we think, we actually do create. So as soon as I started thinking, I was on the toilet, I went to sleep. What were my pajamas? Where was I in the house? I instantly went back to that house. So I woke up, they were pulling the tubes out of my throat, which wasn't nice. Yucky. They put me into my own room. You know, obviously the lady that had the cat Motley, she didn't come back and see me again. I think I scared her. And it was about 2 days later that in my room, the bed went left to right across the room, and behind it was a big window. And at the end of my bed, there was a chair for visitors. And I woke up, and in the chair, there was a very elderly lady, probably 80-year-old lady, sitting in the chair. She had a man standing there about 50 years old. There was a girl about 3 to 5 years old. There was another person there, and a dog, a Labrador, sandy-coloured Labrador, was in my hospital room. So I'm just lying there. I've just woken up because I was still pretty weak, obviously, from being in a coma. And I was just listening to them talking. And this nurse walks in with her clipboard and says, "How do you feel today, Linda?" And I said, "Oh, it's all right. I'm just listening to them." So she's looking at me, looking at the chair. She said, "Linda, there's no one in the chair." And I said, "Yeah, there's a lady, there's a man, there's another person, there's a child, there's a dog." She said, "Linda, no one is here." So I looked at this group of people and I said, "Hello, if you want her to know that you're here, can you please bang on the window?" Straight away, are you ready? The whole window, you know how windows shakes when you hit it? This woman dropped the clipboard on the bed, ran out of the room, and never came back.
Wow.
Never came back.
So
yeah, I came home. The trees started talking to me in the front yard. Cars started talking to me. Clothing started talking to me. "Can you please fix the tear under the left sleeve?" Oh my gosh, shoes started talking to me. Cars talked to me, trees, anything, you know, the amount of furniture that has woken me up and said, "Can you please come and buy me today? I cost $300 and I'm at this place." So half of my furniture is stuff that's woken me up in my house and I had to go and buy it that day. The best one that I like talking about, I had a dream, and it's an antique table that I've got here. It's got 3 legs and it was built in the 1600s, and it was $1,000. Yes, please. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I knew that I had to be over at this shop, and it was about a 40-minute drive to this shop, and it's on a main road. There's no parking there. So I dropped my daughter at school and I went to the bank and I said, "I need $1,000, please." They didn't question. They just gave me the $1,000 in an envelope. So I got over there just at 9 o'clock as this shop is opening, and I had to stop the traffic because from the gutter of the shop, it's right into the lane of the traffic in peak hour traffic. So as I'm coming down the road, I did a U-turn, and the man is walking out with this coffee table that I've now got, this table. So I pull up just as he's about to put it onto the curb for sale. And I said, "Hey, mate, just throw it in the boot." And he said, "Oh, no, you don't understand. This is an antique." And I said, "Yeah, I know. It's from the 1600s. It's $1,000. Here's your money. Don't worry about a receipt because I'm going to look after it. Just throw it in the back because I'm holding up traffic." And he looked in the envelope. I flipped the latch on the hatch of my car, so the boot went up. He threw it in and off I drove, and I didn't even get out of the car.
I bet he
I didn't
tells
even
that
get out of the
story.
car.
I bet he's still telling that story as well to this day.
Yeah, so I've now got that table. My dining room table, I had to go and buy it. That was at a charity shop. It's pine, 8-seater table and chairs. I know how much pine is in America. But here at the charity shop, it was $150. 8 chairs and a big square table. So I walked in at 9 o'clock when they opened, and they said, "What are you here for?" And I said, "Well, I'm here for the 8-seater dining room table, please. I know it's a pine one." She said, "Oh, no, we don't have it." And I said, "Look, go out the back. Can you please check? Because I know you only just got it in yesterday." And this guy came out and he's like, "How did you know?" And I said, "Because it woke me up at 6 o'clock this morning and told me to be here at 9, and here's $150 because I know that's how much you're going to price it for." And he said, "Funny thing, we've just put the price on it for $150. If you drive around the back, we can organise delivery."
Well,
So I've
there
got
you go.
my bed woke me up. I've got a Chesterfield. If you know what a Chesterfield lounge suite is, it's a leather. I've got a leather 3-seater with 2 wingback chairs. I went into Harvey Norman because this chair, well, it's actually 4 pieces. It's got 2 singles, a 3-seater, and a ottoman that you put your feet on. They woke me up and said, "Come in and pay $2,200 for us." I went into Harvey Norman, our furniture shop, and I saw it because it was glowing. I was like, it was like a rainbow coming out of it. Oh, here I am. So I went over and sat on it. The salesman came over and he said, "Oh, do you like this chair?" And I said, "Yes, how much?" And he said, "Oh, it's nearly $6,000. It's $5,800. And I said, "Well, go talk to your boss because I know you're going to accept $2,200 today." So the manager came back and he said, the ottoman's got a broken foot. It's floor stock.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you want to give us for it?" And I said, "I'm only paying $2,200. I've got cash here in an envelope." He said, "Look, it's $4,800. The best we can do is $4,000. I said, "No, please don't tell me that because I know you're going to give me this for $2,200. I got it delivered home the next day.
That's a
So
really great skill
furniture
to have.
talks to me. So yes, it's just this. Not only it's the connection, it's everything is one, darling. Our thoughts we create. Remember that bear I told you about?
Mm-hmm.
He was on all fours. He stood up and instantly he was a man. I've got a broken neck. I'm not a quadriplegic because every day I say I am healthy. The other thing you don't know about me, 2016, I got hit in the head with a tree. Don't ask, please. Don't ask. Well, I'll go there. I had tree loppers in. They were cutting down a 60-foot tree in my backyard. I was standing way, way, way over by the other fence. A rogue branch, it was about this round and it was about 20 foot long, came straight out of nowhere and hit me in the head. It was meant to be. So with blood gushing out of my head, I went up to the doctors and I had a CT scan that afternoon and they found a brain tumor.
Wow.
Please don't Google them. Don't Google
No.
brain tumors because I
Mm-mm.
went into shock. I had an MRI. I had an MRI that found it. 6 months later, I had another MRI and it was still there. Thankfully, it was not growing. I came home. This was in 2016. And I said to myself, I got home with this MRI, with this big white dot in my brain. And I thought, no, I am healthy. I am not having this. So every day I said to myself, I am healthy, I am young, I am strong. I am healthy, I am young, I am strong. 6 months later, I had an MRI. The doctor's got the report and he's looking at the paperwork, looks at me, looks at the paperwork, looks at me. And he said, where did it go?
Amazing. That's
Where did
so
it go?
cool.
Because you don't get rid of a brain tumor because they don't dissolve unless you have surgery to get it out. So, yeah, darling, I am a walking miracle. I've seen angels. I've actually seen angel wings. Those stories are going to be in Psychics Exposed, my next book that I'm writing now. But all my ghost stories, because I've got a lot of them, they're all in my book, Ghosts Exposed. So it's a trilogy: Ghosts Exposed, Heaven Exposed, Psychics Exposed. Yeah, it's just sharing the information, letting people know that at the end of the day, don't be concerned with what other people think of us. Only concern yourself with who you are and what you are, and become the best possible you that you can ever be. That's the message that I like sharing to people. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is always my last question anyway, is what do you want us to know? And also, and so you've told us the names of your book. I will be putting links at the bottom
Thank you.
so that people know where to find you. You also, I know, do psychic mediumship readings.
Yes. There
Is
is
it?
a I've got a web store on my
Yeah,
website, lindaray.info. I do psychic readings. I've got my books on there to buy. Yes. Yeah. So,
excellent.
and I've got my Facebook group, Dr. Linda Cramer Paranormal, where I do videos. I like doing my educational and development videos. Like this afternoon, we're doing how to use telekinesis to make things move with our brain. So that one will be done this afternoon, because I don't look at this as a career. This is me just advertising what I know to people, getting the word out there that we can all be fantastic. We are all beautiful. Every single one of us is worthy. We're so equal. There's no equality, there's no diversion or diversity, I should say. We are all the same. And once we get past that physical barrier of our skin, our hair color, the clothes we wear, our height, our weight, it doesn't matter. What matters is who we are in our hearts. What we do to others is what really counts at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Linda Cramer, for being here today and sharing your wisdom and your story with me and my audience. I know it was exactly what I needed to hear again today. Having one of those days, those manifesting days, and you're just reinforcing a lot of what I've listened to today and absorbed today. So this is why I do the work that I do in bringing this podcast to the masses, because I think it's a really important message. And as you said to me before I hit record, this has been a really difficult, dark time for a lot of people. And your message is very important right now to get out to the world, that this isn't all there is.
No,
Things are being shaken up right now, but it's all part of our soul's path and journey. And it's all for the betterment of, I believe, humankind in evolving us spiritually in many different
absolutely.
ways.
I like referring back to movies, Shannon. And one of the movies that I really do respect is Evan Almighty with what's his name? Someone Cowell or someone plays Noah, where he's got to build the ark.
Yeah.
And there's a scene there where his wife and the kids leave, and they're sitting in a diner, and God comes up to the lady, and he says, "What's going on?" And she says, "Oh, I can't handle what's happening with my husband." And God, who was played by Morgan Freeman, he looks at her and he says, "If a woman asks to bring your family together," because that's what she asked for at the beginning of the film, "if a woman asks to have the family brought together, God will put you into an opportunity where you will be brought together." It's a line out of that movie. I absolutely love it
Yeah.
because, we ask, "I want someone to love me." But until you can't find the love within you, as soon as you find that love within you and it shines and sparks out of you like lightning bolts, people will get attracted to that. And that's where people will fall in love with us. We want people to like us even. As soon as we realize what it is that we like about ourselves, what is it that you like doing? That's when we start to get that passion growing within us, and we get excited and we want to share it. And it's funny how energy works, because we don't have to advertise. It's just other people on that same frequency of energy will attract to us and find us, like you finding me today.
Yeah.
It's amazing how this magic works, so the more we raise ourselves up, the more we believe and trust that this stuff is real.
Yeah.
Take our egos out of the equation. We don't need proof. We don't need a confirmation. That's just our egotistic opinion coming into play. But at the end of the day, if we ask for good things, all we've got to do is look around. The sun's out today. That's one good thing. There's no noise outside while we're videoing today. That's two good things. My daughter is not here today. So now I'm up to three good things, and I only asked for one. So it's only when we become aware of our existence and we ask, oh my gosh, I've been asking for a roof over my head, but I already do live in a house.
Yeah.
I have already received what I asked for. So just we put out that intention if we do want something better. But at the end of the day, do we really need it? Because if the answer is no, we probably won't receive it. But if the answer is yes, it will come, because angels are everywhere. I have personally seen angels. My stories are in my books with angels. And other people at my house have seen angel wings in my house. 4-foot angel wings. No, sorry, the feathers were 4 foot long, because when he was here, he dropped feathers when he flew away. And we all saw the feathers fly on my floor. Angels are real. They do exist. And if we put out that intention of what it is that we truly want, they will answer us.
Thank you so much for leaving us with such a beautiful message of hope. And again, for your time and energy, Linda. It's so lovely to have had you on the show and also to have met you.
It's an honor is all mine too, darling. Thank you so much for allowing me to talk to you today.